All right, what's up, guys? Purple and Gold podcast for Friday, February 6th. We are 7 days away from first pitch for LSU baseball against Milwaukee next Friday at Alex Box Stadium. Quick recap of some events from last night. The LSU softball team got their season off to a nice start with a run rule victory over NC State 11-3. Unfortunately, the LSU Lady Tiger basketball team wilted in the second half, particularly the fourth quarter, and lost a tough one to Texas by double digits, and pretty much ends any hopes that the LSU women's basketball team may have had of winning the SEC regular season championship. LSU has a huge game next Saturday night on Valentine's Day at home against South Carolina on ABC. LSU should be favored in all of their remaining games, and I think the goal is to try to get right, win as many of those games as they can, and see if they can't still end up on the 2 seed line come selection Sunday. LSU Lady Tigers will be back in action this Sunday. The men play tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central against Georgia. Softball team plays a doubleheader today. They'll play Nevada, and then I think they'll play NC State again tonight. Let's finish up our LSU positional previews by moving on to the relief staff. We've talked about schedule and expectations, catchers, infield, outfield, starting pitching. You can go back and watch those episodes on YouTube. And if you've watched all of those episodes, shout out. I really appreciate that. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Again, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You may be watching on those platforms. I'm also on Twitter X at RobG1124. Would love to interact with folks there as well. If you look at LSU's relief staff and if you look at LSU's bullpen as a whole, I think it has potential to really be one of, if not the best units on the team and in the country. We talked a lot yesterday about how LSU's starting pitchers may not go deep into games or as deep into games as Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson did last year. And so LSU is going to have to do this differently, and they're going to have to use more people out of the bullpen. In yesterday's scrimmage, Zach Cowan did strike out 8 batters in 4 innings. He may really be giving himself a chance at that Sunday starter role. We mentioned him yesterday as being one of the starters. But if not, I certainly think he's, one of, if not the most vital pieces out of the bullpen. So let's start kind of with the back end guys. I think Devin Sheeran is a guy who's going to have an opportunity to throw late innings, possibly close for this team. Devin Sheeran was hurt all of last year. He got hurt playing pickup basketball, of all things, after he transferred from Mount St. Mary's. 6'5", 245 pounds, can really run it up there, 99, 100. I saw some video of him in the scrimmage, really popping mitts last weekend, and he throws hard, and he's got a big breaking ball, and his stuff profiles very favorably for what you would want out of a back end reliever. Another interesting guy that may do some setting up in the later innings is Grant Fontenot. Grant Fontenot's thrown a total of 16 innings his entire career, and he's a fifth-year senior. Threw 11 innings at Texas in 2023, I think, and he threw 5 innings last year. He was out of baseball for a time in 2024. He started at LSU, transferred to Texas. Now he's back at LSU. Very, very late in the season last year, it seemed like he was finding some footing. He actually pitched an inning in the series at South Carolina to close out the regular season. And all of the reports from the fall and now here in the preseason have carried over that he has discovered something. And he was actually on some draft boards last year, even though he had only thrown the 5 innings. But I think he really wanted to come back and try to contribute. He's a Louisiana guy. So that would be a great story if they can get something out of Grant Fontenot. Maverick Rizzi is another guy, 6'9", freshman last year, led the team in appearances with 24, threw great in the Cape Cod League over the summer, has looked really good at times here in the preseason. I would suspect he'll be in a key relief role. Santiago Garcia, a left-hander, transfer from Oregon. He's from the state of New Mexico, just like Stephen Milam. Pitched a lot of big innings in a variety of roles for Oregon. He definitely seems like a guy that LSU will lean on and count on. I think Nate Yeskie can get a little bit more out of him. Nate Yeskie's LSU's pitching coach, and he seems like a guy that I think, especially if another lefty like Cooper Williams winds up in the starting rotation, then I think he takes on an even bigger role. But I think even with Cooper Williams, I still think there's a late inning or a sixth or seventh inning role for Santiago Garcia. Gavin Guidry. Gavin Guidry is back. Gavin Guidry, freshman and sophomore years, got the last out in the 2023 national championship, was fixing to start a game in the midweek last week. Game got rained out. He wakes up the next day with a back injury, wind up requiring some sort of a procedure, and he never threw a pitch at all last year. So you look at Gavin Guidry, he's extended, he's thrown multiple innings here in the preseason. Gavin Guidry's stats his freshman and sophomore year were very good out of the bullpen. He brings a lot of experience, a lot of moxie. He's one of the team leaders. And so you look at Devin Sheeran and Gavin Guidry as being two guys on the mend who would have been in LSU's bullpen last year. LSU won the national championship even without those two guys. Now those two guys are back. So you look at Sheeran, Fontenot, Rizzi, Garcia, Guidry. I think that's a core of five guys for sure that you would expect to make all, if not all, the vast majority of their appearances out of the bullpen. And then you move to the guys we sort of talked about who probably won't wind up in the rotation, at least at the beginning, but all of those guys who potentially lose out on starting spots become bullpen guys. And so that would be Zach Cowan. That would be potentially Cooper Williams, who we talked about yesterday. Marcos Paz, the true freshman. LSU has another bevy of left-handed pitchers as well. DJ Primo, who's been on the team the last few years. He's looked good in preseason. He would be a guy I think you would count on to get maybe an out, maybe one or two outs if there was a couple of left-handers. I don't think he would be a guy who would extend. Danny Lackenmeyer is another left-handed reliever. He's a transfer from North Dakota State, pitched at the box last year when those guys came here for a two-game series in the midweek. I don't know what his role will be right off the jump. He could be a midweek guy. He was very good last year at North Dakota State as a freshman. Obviously, it's a step up in competition to come up to SEC baseball. But I think development-wise, they like the way he's developing. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he didn't wind up throwing a decent amount of innings, even if it is in the midweek. You know, you need guys in those midweek games to sort of be able to go a couple of innings and save the guys who you want to use on the weekend. Connor Benj is another guy who was on the team last year, was sort of in a fireman role out of LSU's bullpen early. He faded, never really got back into it. He hasn't looked great in the preseason. Not sure what his role is. I think he's more of a depth piece and a midweek guy. There's another interesting guy I wanted to talk about, and again, I don't know what kind of role he will have. His name is Dax Daffy. Dax Daffy is the oldest player on the team. I think he's like 24 years old. I think this is his fourth or fifth year of college baseball. He started at Texas Tech, pitched just a few innings. This was when Texas Tech really still had a top-notch team and program. They still have a great team and program, but they've fallen on a little bit of hard times here the last few years. He wound up at Angelo State, which is Division II, was very good. kind of raised some eyebrows when LSU took him out of the transfer portal very late in the cycle. I don't know if they view him as a guy who could maybe be a midweek starter, maybe could give you 2 or 3 innings in a midweek game, whether it be as a starter, as a reliever, and a veteran presence, a guy who's just been around college baseball a long time. Not sure really what role he would have. I think the guys you're looking at are Sheeran, Fontenot, Rizzi, Garcia, Gavin Guidry, and then I think you're looking at Cowan, Cooper, Williams, Marcos Paz, and Jaden Newt. In terms of those are the guys who I think will wind up in the bullpen if they don't start. Any of those guys would be interchangeable for William Schmidt, right? So if one of those guys winds up starting on Sunday, then you're looking at William Schmidt, who's actually pitching right now. LSU's having a scrimmage right now, and he's pitching today. So based on the fact that Kason Evans and Cooper Moore pitched yesterday, and Zach Cowan pitched yesterday, and William Schmidt and Jaden Newt are pitching today, that would tell you that those are the 5, and again, Cooper Williams will pitch probably tomorrow. Those are the 6 guys, right, that are sort of in the mix for those 3 spots. So whoever doesn't start on the weekend out of those 6 guys, you'll have 3 more guys in the bullpen. I've seen a lot of talk, and you may have seen some of this if you follow any of this on social media, about LSU's starting pitchers, and they may only go 3-4 innings, and then the bullpen will be asked to do a lot. And I kind of alluded to something in that ilk yesterday. I don't think that's the way they want to go in and plan. I think they want to plan for guys to build up, right? And hopefully Kason Evans and Cooper Moore go out there and they're the next great 1-2 punch and whatever. I just think, again, going into this season, I don't think you can necessarily begin the season counting on those 2 guys or some combination of those 2 guys to do what Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson did. If they do it, wonderful, great, and you'll probably be in Omaha again with a great chance to dogpile. But the good news about this is if you do have starters who can just get you through 5 or 6 innings, LSU does have enough out of the bullpen to complete a weekend and get the necessary outs needed to win SEC series. So that's going to wrap it up for today. That's going to wrap it up for our bullpen conversation. We'll be back on Monday. We'll recap the weekend, and we'll start to talk about what we're expecting from LSU baseball next Friday. I'll have a season prediction. I'll have bold predictions. We'll do all of that, and we'll be right here to bring it all to you. Have a safe weekend. Have a fun weekend. If you're going to the Carnival and the Mardi Gras, enjoy that. And we'll be back on Monday. Be good to one another. And always, 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 go Tigers.